Hey, Namaskar and good morning to all of you. Let's start our Sunday Gita class with the Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasen Grathitam Puran Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritvarshine Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Amutvam Anusandhame Bhagavad Gite Bhagavadveshine नमो अस्तु ते व्यास विशाल बुद्धे फुल अरविंद आयत पत्र नेत्र येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञान मया प्रदीपः प्रपान्न पारी जाताये तोत्र वेत्र एक पानये ज्ञान मुद्राय कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोगदा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगद्गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्रहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तने सो तीर्णा खलु पांडवैर्नदी क्यवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम् नानाख्यानक केसरम हरिकथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदे रह रह पे पिए मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसे न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम् यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्ये स्तवे वेदै सांगपद क्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यानवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. We started looking into Bhagavad Gita from chapter 1 last week, and we ended our class with the verse number 8 or 9. So I'm going to start with the 9 though. Okay. So, so if you have the books with you, you can open the books. And the end of this class, which lasts about 45 minutes, you can ask any question pertaining to what we have studied, your comments, or something you did not understand. And then after that, we will have a bhajan by Nani also. Okay. So number 9. अन्ये च बहवः शूराः मदर्थे त्यक्त जीविता नाना शस्त्र प्रहरणः सर्वे युद्ध विशारदा. अन्य others, च means and, bahava many, shuraha heroes, mad arthe for my sake, tyakt jivita who are determined to give up their lives, nana shastra praharnaha armed with various weapons. Sarve means all, yudh visharada well skilled in battle. Who is saying this? Duryodhan. Duryodhan is the eldest of those 100 Kauravas, the sons of that blind king Dhritarashtra. And to whom he is saying all this? To his teacher, Acharya Drona. Commonly we call him Dronacharya. Okay? See, teacher is Acharya. So he is the one who taught them when they were little. War skills, about the scriptures also, about all kinds of nitis, Dronacharya ji taught them. So he's telling him all this. He says, and many other heroes also who are determined to give up their lives for my sake. You can see the arrogance in Duryodhan. armed with various weapons, all well skilled in battle. So innumerable other heroes, because you remember earlier he mentioned several names from the Pandavas side. Then he must have realized I did not mention my own side. Then he mentioned few names. And even when he counted the names of the Kaurav warriors, he repeated just very few names, four names, ignoring some very, very great personalities in Kaurav's side also. So immediately he must have realized, and that's why he is covering up his omission by declaring the innumerable other heroes also are here and determined to lay down their lives for my sake. Tyakt jivita. They are ready to die for me. Very, he is arrogating and showing his stupidity, making himself look bigger, even though all those heroes were there for Bhisham Pitama's sake. Because Bhisham Pitama, he held the highest rank and lot of respect. That's why Kaurav's army was a lot bigger than Pandav's armies because of Bhisham Pitama. Let's look at number 10. What else he is saying? Duryodhana is still talking. अपर्याप्तं तत् अस्माकं बलं भीषम अभिरक्षितम् पर्याप्तं तु इदम् एतेषां बलं भीम अभिरक्षितम् अपर्याप्तं insufficient. That means that asmakam ours balam forces army bhisham abhirakshitam protected by Bhisham Pitama, because he is the commander in chief there on the Kaurav side. Paryaptam, that is sufficient. Tu means but, idam means this, etesham, their, balam, army, bhim abhirakshitam, protected by Bhim. This army of ours protected by Bhishma is insufficient. Whereas that army of theirs protected by Bhim is sufficient. So in the Kaurav's forces, Bhishma Pitamaha was a defender. Defender is a person who is powerful in valor, courage, intelligence. He is a defender. So on Pandav's side, it was Bhim. So Bhim is one of the Pandavas. You remember? Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, Sahdev. These are the 5 Pandavas, son of the Pandu. Okay? So Aparyaptam and Paryaptam. So Duryodhana is feeling that their army is insufficient, not enough, and theirs is sufficient, even though it's a lot smaller. What was the ratio? 11-7. 11 Akshoni Kauravas, 7 Akshoni Pandavas. But Duryodhana is still feeling that there is not enough. Lack of confidence. And why this lack of confidence? Because his conscience weighs heavy with the guilt because of the crimes he did on the Pandavas all of his life. So Pandav's army, even though less in number, have a righteous cause to fight for. And that carries a bigger weight. अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागम अवस्थिता भीष्मम एव अभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्वे एव हि. Duryodhana is still speaking. Ayaneshu, in the divisions of the army. See, there are several divisions in the army. Cha means and, sarveshu in all. Yatha bhagam, according to division. Avasthita, being stationed. Bhishmam, ev means alone. Abhirakshan, to protect. Bhavantaha, you. Sarve, all. Ev means even, he means indeed. So Duryodhana, talking to his teacher, is saying, therefore. Therefore means because their army is sufficient, ours is not. So therefore, you all stationed in your respective positions in the several divisions of the army, protect Bhishma alone. Because he is the commander in chief. Make sure everybody protects him. So Duryodhana is instructing to Dronacharya and to other commanders working in their different wings to work out the single policy that better protect Bhishma. And this clearly shows that how much he really thought that his army is insufficient or also not very efficient. Bhishma Pitama was considered by Duryodhana as the very heat of his army because he has the boon in his boon of living as long as he wants to live. So, in other words, when he wanted to die, only then he will die. Okay. So, and the different kings and different warriors, they joined this side because of the reference for him. And commanders, different commanders, I think in the beginning I mentioned that there are the chariots, then there were horses, there were soldiers on the foot also. But among the chariots alone, there is a Atirathi. That is, one Atirathi is capable of fighting 10,000 warriors, whether on the horseback or on the foot. That kind of a command they have, that kind of a power they had at that time. And the next in the pecking order were the Maharathis. So Atirathi, then Maharathi. And Maharathis were like Duryodhana, Drishtadhyumna, Ashwathama, Abhimanyu. All the Pandavas brothers except Arjun. They were Maharathis. Maharathis were capable of holding up to 60,000 warriors. That's how much skillful they were in waging the war. So simultaneously 60,000 warriors, Maharathi. So Duryodhana was a Maharathi. Then above Maharathis were Ati Maharathi. So those were Arjun, Karan, Bhisham Pitamaha, Dronacharya. So these people did not, they no longer dealt with the foot soldiers, but focused purely on the Maharathis. So Ati Maharathi, they fought with the Maharathi. And above that was Maharathi. So in that Mahabharat war, Maharathi was only Lord Krishna. But he promised that I will not fight. Lord Shiv, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, so avatars, they hold that kind of a position. They have special powers, vibhutis. So Atirathi, Maharathi, Ati Maharathi, and Maharathi. Okay, so these wars were, they had a very strict discipline to wage the wars, and a very strict reason also to have the war. Okay, so let's look at what happens there on the field of Kurukshetra. Number 12. Tasye Sanjnayan Harsham Kuru Vridh Pitamaha Sihnadam Vinadye Uchai Shankam Dadmau Pratapvan. Tasye. Tasye means his. His means Duryodhan. So Duryodhan is speaking up until the verse number 11. But remember, this whole story is being narrated to that blind king by Sanjay. Okay, just keep that in mind. So Tasya is his, Sanjanayan, causing, Harsham, joy, Kuru Vridha, eldest of the Kurus. And who's that? Hisham Pitama, Pitamaha, grandsire. Sinhanadam, lion's roar, Sinhanad, Vinadye, having sounded, Uchai, loudly, Shankam, a conch, Dadmau, blue, Pratapvan, glorious or the mighty. His glorious grandsire Bhisham Pitamaha, the oldest of the Kauravas, in order to cheer Duryodhan, bring some joy, because he saw Duryodhan is making a fool of himself. He is so shaken up. So in order to cheer Duryodhan, now sounded aloud a lion's roar and blew his conch. So we saw that how Duryodhan was busy making a fool of himself. He, he is showing some excitement, but through those words we can see that how disturbed he was internally, mentally. So Bhisham Pitama, being the eldest over there and being the commander-in-chief of Kaurava's side, he was not standing too far away. He was standing close to Duryodhan. So that's why he could hear what he was saying. He was observing a pitiable confusion of this tyrant. So that's why this great Kaurav, Bhisham Pitamaha, took up his conch. It's almost like um, all these great warriors over there, they had some kind of a musical instrument with them. We'll see that in the following verses. So Bhisham Pitama had the conch and he blew it. And he is sending a very roaring waves of confidence in the hearts of the people around him. And this action of Bhisham Pitamaha, even though he performed it to bring some cheer into Duryodhan's mind, but at that time it amounted to an act of aggression corresponding to the first bullet shot. So in the history it got recorded that this war was started by the Kauravas, not by the Pandavas. So they became the aggressors. Maybe Bhisham Pitama didn't want to do it. His purpose was different, but still it is written like that. Tataha Shankha cha bherya cha panavah anak gomukha सहसा एव अभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दः तुमुला अभवत्. I think somebody is asking me a question. The exact spelling of Bhishma. Bhishma is Bhishma. Bhishma. And Bhim, Bhim, Bhim or Bheem also I have seen both ways. Bhim and Bhishma, even though they sound alike. But Bhim is the Pandav and the Bhisham Pitama is the grandfather. Okay. So Tataha, then Shankha, conches. See, I told you that so many warriors over there, especially these Rathis and the Maharathis and Ati Maharathis, they had their musical, that conches over there, or bugles or cattle drums. So Cha means and, Bherya. Bherya means bugle. Panav Anak Gomukha, tabors, military drums, and cow horns, Gomukha. Sahasa Ev, quite suddenly, because when they heard Bhisham Pitamaha blowing into the conch, they said, okay, all right, the war has begun. Let us reciprocate. Abhyahanyant, blared forth. Sa means that, Shabd means sound, Tum laha, overwhelming or tremendous, Abhavat was. Then, following Bhisham Pitamaha, conches and cattle drums, tabors and military drums, and cow horns blared forth quite suddenly, and the sound was tremendous or overwhelming. Because all of a sudden, everybody started blowing into their conches and the other instruments. So it was pretty loud. Because all the commanders, they were in high tension at that time. And as soon as they heard the grand sire blowing into the conch, they said, okay, all right, now is the time. It's like a battle cry. And the sound was tremendous, very loud. And this is a sound from the Kaurava side, because their commander in chief is blowing the conch. And later on, we'll see when the sound comes from Pandav side, how Sanjay describes that. Okay. Tataha shvetei hayayuktehe mahati syandane stito madhva pandva cha eva divyo shankau pradamatu. Tata means then. Shvetei, with white. Haya, horses. Yuktehe, yoked. Mahati, magnificent. Syandane, in the chariot. Sthitau, seated. Madhava. Madhav word is used for Lord Krishna. Ma means goddess. Ma, goddess of fortune. Dhav means husband. So husband of Lakshmi is Lord Krishna, Madhav. Pandavaha. Cha means and, Ev means also, Divyo, divine. Shankau, conches. Pradyamnatu, blue. Then also Madhav and the son of Pandu, seated in their magnificent chariot yoked with white horses, blew their divine conches. So Sanjay is saying that when they blew, they were divine conches. From the divine conches, the sound is divine too. From the Kaurav side, it was a overwhelming, tremendous sound. So Sanjay is continuing the report upon the war front. So he is taking up the description of the Pandav side now. And beautifully he is saying, sitting in the magnificent chariot, harnessed with the white horses, Madhav and Arjun blew their conches, divine conches. I mean, you can see that in these words. Sanjay is hoping in the heart that the king, Dhritarashtra, because he is the king, he could have stopped the war even at that time too. So with all this narration up until the end, Sanjay kept hoping. He thought maybe I can persuade with this narration to that blind king. Number 15. Panchjanyam Hrishikeshah Devdattam Dhananjaya Pandram Dadmau Mahashankam Bhimkarma Vrikodraha. And now you see the details, even the names of the conches of the other Pandavas also, and Lord Krishna and Arjun also, is Sanjay is telling. Panchjanyam. That is a conch, name of the conch, who's Lord Krishna's. Hrishikesha, Krishna. Devdattam, the conch named Devdatta, Dhananjay, Arjun. There are several names used in Bhagavad Gita for Arjun and several for Lord Krishna also. So you just saw Madhav and now you are seeing Rishikesh and Dhananjay for Arjun. Pandram, the conch named Pandra. Dadmau, blue. Mahashankam, great conch. Bhimkarma, that is large sized deeds done, or a doer of the large sized deeds. Bhimkarma, Vrikodra. Vrikodra means having a fire in the stomach. That means the gastric fire is so much that he could eat a lot. Vrikodra. Udar means the stomach. So Shri Krishna blew the Panchjanyam, and Arjun blew the Devdatta, and Bhim, the doer of the large deeds, blew the great conch named Ponder. Okay, so these are the names of their conches. And the literal meaning of Rishikesh for Lord Krishna is, that means Lord of the senses, Rishikesh. That is the meaning of it. And Panchjanya conch was made out of a demon called Panchjan. If you have watched or read Mahabharata, you will read these stories. There was a demon he killed, and this conch was, that's where the demon lived. And after killing the demon, he got that conch. And this Panchjanya conch was with Lord Krishna throughout his life. Dhananjay, Dhananjay word is used for Arjuna. That means a conqueror of wealth. You remember earlier, Duryodhana cheated the Pandavas and took the Hastinapur. And the Pandavas were given a barren land, Indraprastha. So Arjun was sent to different lands to get some wealth. And that's how he brought the wealth from different hidden places. There was a stagnant wealth kept other places, so he brought it all back to Indraprastha. So that's why this name very suitable to him, Dhananjay, conqueror of wealth. And Devdatta, the name of the conch which was given to Arjuna, that is, it was given to him by whom? By Indradev. Indradev. Devdatta. Given by the Devta, the king of the Devta. Okay. And the Vrikodra word I already told you, actually it really means, literal meaning is wolf-bellied. Wolf-bellied. Okay. A devouring capacity or a digestive fire is great. So Bhim was known for these powers. Okay. So now let's look at number 16. I mean, look at the detail which Sanjay put in these verses when he's narrating the war zone to that king. अनंत विजयम राजा कुंती पुत्रा युधिष्ठिर नकुला सहदेव च सुघोष मणि पुष्पकौ. Anant Vijayam. This is a conch named Anant Vijay. Raja, the king. Kunti Putra, the son of Kunti, Yudhishthir. Nakul Sahadev, these are the younger two Pandavas, Chairman's and Sughosh Mani Pushpakau. So these are the names of the conches, Sughosh and Mani Pushpak. So King Yudhishthir, the son of Kunti, blew the Anant Vijay. Nakul and Sahadev blew their conches named Sughosh and Mani Pushpak. And Anant Vijay literally means everlasting victory. Anant Vijay. And Sughosh means sweet toned. Okay. And Nakul's conch, Mani Pushpak means gem flowered. So beautiful divine names also they gave to their conches. काश्य च परम ईश्वासः शिखंडी च महारथा धृष्टद्युम्न विराटा च सात्यकी च अपराजितः. Kashya, the king of Kashi. Ch means and, Param Ishvasaha, an excellent archer. Shikhandi, that's the name of this king. Maharatha, mighty chariot warrior, Maharathi. Drishtadyumna, Virat, Cha Satyaki, Cha Aprajita, unconquered. Aprajita means unconquered, and these are the names Drishtadyumna, Virat, and Satyaki. The king of Kashi, an excellent archer, Shikhandi, the mighty chariot warrior, Drishtadyumna, and Virat, and Satyaki, the unconquered. Okay? So he is mentioning all these great warriors on the Pandava side. Drupadaha, Draupadaya Sarvashaha, Prithi Vipate, Sobhadra cha Mahabahu, Shankhan Dadmu Prithak Prithak, Drupad, that's a king Drupad, Draupadaya, the son of Draupadi, and Draupadi was the wife of these five Pandavas. Cha means and, Sarvasha, all. Prithvipate. This Prithvipate means the Lord of Earth. And Lord of Earth is who at this time? That blind king Dhritarashtra. So Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, calling him Prithvipate. Saubhadraha, the son of Subhadra. Subhadra is Lord Krishna's sister, Arjun's wife. The tradition was that you could have more than one wife, or you can have more than one husband also. That was a culture at that time. Okay, so Lord Arjun had Subhadra, Lord Krishna's sister, as a wife, and the son from Subhadra was Saubhadra, and his name was Abhimanyu, if you all remember. Mahabahu, the mighty armed, Shankhan, conches, Dadmu, blue, Prithak, Prithak, respectively. Drupad and the sons of Draupadi, O Lord of Earth, and the son of Subhadra, the mighty armed, blew their respective conches. So in these verses, we have the enumeration of the great Mahabharats, battalion commanders, with a great enthusiasm, loudly blew their conches again and again. Okay? And if you remember, Shikhandi was the one, ultimately, because of him, they could conquer Bhisham Pitama. Shikhandi. So this report is being addressed to Dhritarashtra. So these are Sanjay's words. Let's look at one more. Saghoshaha dharta rashtra nam hridyani vyadariyat Nabha cha prithvim cha ev tumla nunadyan. So means that Ghosha, uproar. Dharth Rashtra Nam, the Dhritarashtra's party. So that means the Kaurav's side. Hridyani, hearts. Vyadaryat, shattered. Nabha, sky. Cha means and. Prithvim, the earth. Again, cha means and. Ev means also. Tumlaha, tumultuous. Nunadyan, thundering. It's like a something when it's reverberating. Nunadyan. That tumultuous sound shattered the hearts of the people of Dhritarashtra's party and made both heaven and earth reverberated. So we can see that starting from verse number 14 onwards, Sanjay is giving us all the details and a very exhaustive description of the Pandav forces. And very vivid understanding of the superiority of the Pandav forces. And again, I would say that he was hoping. He was hoping that maybe this disastrous war can be stopped. So in this particular verse, verse number 19, Sanjay is saying that the sound raised by the Pandav battle is just like it went through the whole battlefield and rose up a echo in the space. Because Sanjay has this super sensuous sight also and a super sensuous hearing also. So that's why he can see it all. What is really happening in the hearts of people also. Now, we'll stop it in the middle of verse number 21. Middle means the first line, because then the second line is just it's a different dialogue then after that. अथ व्यवस्थान दृष्टवः धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजा प्रवृते शस्त्र संपाते धनु उधर्म्ये पांडवः ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम् idam aha mahipate. So this is the first line in 21. So this is up to this point we are going to discuss today. Ath means now. Vyavasthan, standing arrayed. Drishtva, seeing. Dhart Rashtran, the Dhritarashtra's party, his people, the Kauravas, Kapi Dhwaja, with a monkey banner, monkey insignia. Okay, like on the banner there's a monkey. Pravrite, about to bring. Shastra Sampate, discharge of weapons. Dhanu means a bow. Udharme, having taken. Pandava, the son of Pandu. And who's that? Arjun. Hrishikesham, to Hrishikesh, to Lord Krishna. Tada means then. Vakyam, words. Idam, this. Ah, said. Mahipate, O Lord of earth. Then seeing the people of Dhritarashtra's party standing arrayed and the discharge of weapons about to begin. So they all had their weapons in their hand. War is about to start. Arjun, the son of Pandu, whose insignia was a monkey. Monkey means Hanumanji. Took up his bow and said these words to Krishna, O Lord of the earth. So that's why I want to stop it here, because with the second line on verse number 21, Arjun starts to speak. But over here we can see that So these 1.5 verses, we have a description of the arrival of the hero of Mahabharata war, Arjun, on the battlefield. So ready to wage the war. So it's like an exact timing and the nature of his entry are noted here. So shooting has not started yet, but it was imminent. It was the most tense moment because the crisis had risen to its highest level right now. Both sides were ready. And they all had the chariots, they had their own flags. And this why the Hanuman on Arjun's, because for him, Hanuman was the hero, the leader. Hanuman said, I'll always be there with you. If you have read Mahabharata, you remember this little episode when Arjun becomes very proud of his skill in archery. And he even told Lord Krishna that in the time of Ram, the monkeys labored so much, made the bridge from the south part of India to Sri Lanka. He said, if I was there, I could have made the bridge with the arrows. Lord Krishna said, okay, all right, demonstrate to me. Arjun made the bridge. He showered the arrows on the water. Shri Krishna called Hanumanji at that time. He said, can you test this bridge which is made by Arjun? Hanumanji put one foot on that bridge and it started to crumble. At that time, Arjun realized that his bridge of arrows would have never been able to uphold the weight of all the Vanars, the vast army to Lanka. And he apologized for his mistake. Hanuman then taught Arjuna the lesson to never become proud of your skills. Stay humble. And he gave the boon. This was a boon given by Hanumanji to Arjuna that he would sit on his chariot during the war. So that's why Sanjay has said, Dharta Rashtran Kapidhvaja. So he's telling that king that there is a Hanumanji. But still Dhritarashtra's eyes did not open. It's not that he didn't know about it, but still he was blinded towards all this. In Putra Moha, totally deluded. So we'll end the class here. So next week when we meet, we'll see what Arjun is saying to Lord Krishna. Okay? There are several messages we can take. In fact, each verse has many, many messages for us. Bhagavad Gita is like a deep ocean. The more we go inside, the more pearls of wisdom we get. But today I want you to take from this class is that verse where we started the class today, where Duryodhan is saying that my army is limited, it's insufficient. And Pandava's army is sufficient. Don't we do that sometimes? We have plenty, but we are not satisfied with it. We are always looking for something or somebody else's life. How come they have it? When we are focusing on other people, what do they have? we lose sight of what we have. Instead of being grateful what you have, instead of being thankful for what you have and enjoy what you have and have a confidence of what you have, we keep on looking at somebody else's. How come I don't have it? And we lose confidence also, and we let go of the gratefulness of also. So we got to learn this. Sure, you can find a lot of messages, as I said earlier, but I am going to give you only one little message after about 8 to 10 verses of Bhagavad Gita every week. So thank you very much for coming, listening. Let's do the Shanti part. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. So any